Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Redis workshop session here at our MLH month-long hackathon December. So thank you so much for being here. I do need to change the title though. This is a Redis workshop and we are going to work on integrating Redis Cloud into your application. Let me just look in comments real quick. Thank you so much for being here. I am so glad. Let me go ahead and introduce myself. Hello everybody, my name is Wei, a coach here at Major League Hacking. I use he, him pronouns. And a fun fact about me is we are having Chinese takeout for Christmas Eve. Not many restaurants are open on Christmas Eve, as you know. So that's what we're gonna have. Let me know in chat what you're going to have during your Christmas. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming to my Docker series at my last Global Hack Week. We are having another Global Hack Week beginner week in January, so please register and join if you haven't already. With that, let's check into this event. I want to make sure everybody gets your attendance recorded so that we can know who's joined us and which sessions you're most interested in. So here is the check-in link. Be sure to just click that real quick and check in for me. Let me change my banner real quick, make sure to check in. And with that, I'm going to show you real quick what we're building today. You probably already know this project. This is the project I used 2 days ago at my Tiny MCE stream, where we learned how to integrate Tiny MCE into an application. Makes editing so much easier. And here is the project that I am using. Let me just run it real quick. This is exactly where we left it on Wednesday. Let me just do an npm start on this project. And let's open it up. So here you see a message box down below. You have access to AI. You can have advanced features. What you see is what you get. Is basically the slogan for Tiny MCE. So you can type in anything you want. So like heading 1, for example, heading 1, and then we can send it over to the chat. And anybody in the world can actually see this chat because we are using what's called a socket IO to maintain a WebSocket connection from any web browser loading this website from across the world. So anybody can type in and send a message. So feel free to check it out if you would like to post a message. The link is in chat. And this project is pretty basic. It just has one index.js file and one index.html file. And we've kind of gone through this a little bit on Wednesday, but just a quick recap. The HTML file basically has a list of messages, so anybody can send messages to it. And it also has a form that currently has a text area, which uses Tiny MCE, and a send button. And that's exactly what you see here. You have a text area and a send button. On submit, you can check out some of the things this form submission does. It uses the WebSockets to send a chat message to emits a chat message to the backend, and it adds it actually to a SQLite database, which we will jump into shortly, just as an overview before we jump into our Redis content. And that's kind of the front end HTML file. And if we dive into the JavaScript file, this is our server component of it. You can see it's actually pretty straightforward. We are using SQLite 3 database, and you can see the chat.db file that's created on creation of this, on start of this application. You'll see a table that is created initially, and then during the WebSocket connection, if a new chat message is received on the server side, we insert it into the database, SQLite database, and we also, on the initial connection, we return all the existing messages so the page can load with all the existing messages. So that is basically what this does. And the goal for us today is we are going to convert this into using Redis Cloud. Redis makes it so easy to integrate, so I highly recommend you stay till the end and play with it. And be sure to use Redis in your application, because once you use Redis Cloud in your application, you will be eligible for the Redis prize category, which we will get into at the end. I'll show you how to select that category on DevPost and join in. With that, let's keep going here. This is our session plan. We are going to first sign up to Redis Cloud. We are going to learn a little bit about Redis, like what are the key features they provide and which features we'll be using. And then we're going to use Redis Cloud in our chat app. We're going to integrate it into our application here. So everything will be working exactly the same. So thank you so much for this message. Loving it. Everything will still be working exactly the same, but we're going to transition the backend to use Redis Cloud. And just a real quick introduction to Redis. Redis Cloud is the easiest way to build and scale real-time applications. It originated with a caching system, right? It's mainly used for caching, but now with the Redis stack, you have capabilities like indexing, querying, full text search, JSON time series, and all kinds of rich features that are now provided by Redis. They integrate with all kinds of programming languages. So if you are not using JavaScript, don't worry. They have SDKs and programming interfaces with many languages. Why do people use Redis? Redis is fast. It's popular with caching, and now you can also use it as like your primary database. You can query, you can store JSON data, you can have full text search. So those are all the features that like maybe a SQLite database doesn't necessarily have, right? I think it also supports, correct me if I'm wrong, like time series and maybe geo coordinates as well. So there are a ton of use cases for Redis. All right. Cool. And just real quick, the prize for the Redis prize category is a Redis Stack Server IoT hardware unit. So this is going to be a very exciting prize category if you want to apply for it. Now, let's first sign up for Redis Cloud, and then we'll jump into some of the documentation that arises from their setup. So let's do a sign up real quick. I'm going to use my email. I'm hoping it works. Wait on stream redis@gmail.com. MLH, Major League Hacking. Let me zoom in just a little bit so you can see. Before then, let me actually post a link to the sign up page if you would like to follow along. Here is the sign up page for Redis. This is completely free for developers, and they have very affordable pay-as-you-go pricing as you scale if you end up using it for production. All right, so let me go ahead and pop in my phone number there and sign up. Okay, I'm doing it on a separate screen real quick. All right, and you are in. This is my second time coming onto this dashboard page. So if it's your first time, you just need to pick which cloud provider you would like to use for your free Redis Cloud instance. For me, as you can see here, I picked AWS US East 1, which was the default, and it seems to work perfectly. And I am going to use, I have a way free DB instance already up, looks like, and I can click into it to take a look at my database instance. So as you can see here, we have 30 megabytes available. I've already used a little bit from my testing. and you have all these additional capabilities that are available for Redis for this instance. Of course, there are some additional dials that you can choose from based on your plan, but we won't worry about all of that right now. And oh, looks like there is a delete database feature as well. So let me just do that real quick and just start over. Delete, and then I'll create a new subscription so you see what it looks like. I'm going to, yep, so I can pick the 30 megabyte free. I'm going to pick AWS and $0 coupon code. I believe there's a coupon code for the event as well. So if you are part of the month-long hackathon event, definitely check out the information FAQ on the coupon codes. And for the subscription name, I'm just going to say Way Chat App. So this is what I'm going to use my subscription, my Redis instance for. Database name, I don't think it matters very much, so I'm just going to say Way Chat App as well. And keeping everything else defaults. And activate database. Okay, so it looks like I cannot have dashes. So why don't I change it to underscores maybe? Oh, I can use dashes. So let me use dashes. I cannot use underscores. That was the problem. Okay, now you can see the instance is now pending. So we'll just wait a little bit for this to create. Oh, looks like it's good now. All right, we'll leave this page open for now, and then let's jump into some documentation real quick to learn a little bit more about Redis Cloud. And by the way, if you would like to learn more about Redis Cloud, there's actually a Redis University MLH specific link that you can go to, and which I will share in the chat right now. And here is the link to the Redis University for MLH. You will find some amazing resources there, so let's just take a quick peek. Yeah, welcome MLH hackers, and you have a ton of setup YouTube videos, playlists, and different workshops using different types of examples and frameworks and languages. So definitely check them out. And as you can see here, the Redis client libraries header, it also shows like a ton of JavaScript resources as well as Python resources. Those are the more popular languages, but they do have integration with all languages and frameworks as far as I am aware. So definitely check those out. Now, there are some amazing links under Redis documentation as well. So there are how to install, commands, data types, and you can search their documentation as well. I'm not going into commands right now because that's more for like command line interface to work with the Redis database directly. We are going to be using JavaScript, so probably the Node Redis library that we can that will abstract away a lot of those complexities and commands for us. So we'll jump into it after. But data types is a very useful feature. So let's take a look at all the data types available in Redis. I'm kind of showing you how I learn new technical concepts and new tools and by just reading the documentation. So we'll just jump into it together. All right, so understanding Redis data types. And as you can see, there are some core data types that includes string. That's pretty easy to understand, just text. We can have lists of strings. We can have sets, hashes, okay. Sorted sets, so something that can be sorted. Streams, geospatial indexes. Oh, that's what I was talking about. That Redis supports geo searches as well, which is very, very powerful. even has bitmaps. That's really cool. So we've looked at most of the common, like the core data types, and we'll actually think about like which ones to use in our application, right? For now, I'm thinking probably strings and lists. So we'll jump into it after. And let's take a look at strings. Overview of strings. So here you can take a look at the introduction to strings, how to use them, how to set them. And it looks like they don't have a JavaScript example, but that's okay. So they're all pretty similar, right? So using the library, you can set key value. So now like anybody can retrieve that directly from the Redis stack. Okay, and there are some more advanced flags that you can set. So I won't jump into that right now. And there are the Redis string command interface. These are the commands I was talking about. These are all the operations that work with strings. So you can do a ton of things with it. In addition to just set and get, right? Those are the ones that we saw examples of, but you can do a ton of things like substring, string length, and all kinds of things with string data type. And you can go through the list to find more information on all of those. All right, next, let's actually integrate, well, let's look at lists too, because I mentioned lists. So overview of Redis lists. So let's take a look here. So lists are linked list of string values. So strings, a list of strings. And then we have push, pop, rpush as to the tail. So like FIFO, LIFO type of thing. You can use pop, left pop, right pop using, it's a linked list as you can see here, double linked list likely. So that's the data structure that you're using, and that makes things so much easier to handle both LIFO and FIFO operations, as well as like appending or prepending data. And you can move things around as well. So these are all the commands, but we won't be using all of them. We'll just play with some of them, and we'll take a look after. And oh, they actually have a Node.js example here. So if you want to push some data here, you can push to the left, push to the left. You can pop from the right, for example, and using those commands. Super, super easy. Great. Okay, so let's install Redis in our application. So install Redis. Okay, so this is actually installing the Redis server. But since we are using Redis Cloud, we don't have to install Redis directly. We can just install the client library. And in the link here, we actually saw a JS quick start guide. So let's just take a quick peek there and to see how to install Node Redis to our application. And I'll also send this link in the chat if you would like to follow along, but feel free to watch. All we have to do is use npm install Redis to get that installed. And let's go to our application, stop it real quick, and run npm install Redis. And in the meantime, I want to get rid of SQLite 3, right? So we can get rid of that shortly here. But as you can see in package.json, we now have Redis available in our application. All right, let me actually send a copy of this GitHub repo in case anybody wants to check it out. I think it's worker chat with tinymce. That is the URL to our repo that we are working on. So the first step I did was I ran npm install Redis. Okay, and if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in chat. I would love to help you out. And if I'm going too fast or slow, just let me know as well. So we've installed Redis. Now let's go to the second step. We can create a client and connect. That's perfect. And then we can set and get various keys, right? Okay, no worries. Just watch, that's perfectly fine. And then you can think of how you could implement this within your application, right? Okay, so now let me go back to my instance here. This is my Redis cloud. And on my Redis cloud, there is a feature called, let's see how I can connect to it. I think there's a place where I can connect to it. Right, let's see. Connect. Okay, so I just hit connect and I'm going to use Redis client to connect. And I am using Node.js, so this is a perfect snippet just for me. I'm going to show the password for now. I will change it later. Copied. And I'm going to paste it within our application. So now we have a Redis client that is pointing to our Redis cloud. And let me just get rid of SQLite 3 for now, since we no longer need it. And actually, let me create a test.js file so we can test out the Redis cloud before integrating into our application. And here I have initialized it. Now, if we go back to the quick start guide, there are some examples we can do, right? We can set a value and print it out. We can try that real quick. Just see if it works. Client.set way username way email. Maybe I'll do that. Way's email is wayonstream@gmail.com, for example. And I can get the value as well right here, and I will print out, do a console log, and I can say something like Way's email is value. Okay. And we can try to run this directly using Visual Studio, right? So there's a little bug icon on the left, and you can just hit run and debug if you would like. Run Node.js. Okay, so 1 second. So it is actually running the index.html file or index.js file. We won't do that for now. So let me just run this manually by doing node test.js. And of course, we have a problem here. Client is closed. This just means we forgot to open the client. And inside the documentation, there's actually a line to open the client. So let me just copy those 2 lines real quick and put them in our application. So this way, we make sure we can open the client. Okay, once we open the client, connect to the client, we can then set and retrieve data. So let's try that command one more time, node test.js. And as you can see, the value is returned. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. Now, you may be wondering, like, is there another way to see the database, to look at the database, see what are the keys, the values that are on there? Yes, there is. And if you noticed, under Endpoint Connect, there is a feature called Redis Insight. That is actually a desktop software that you can use to connect directly to your Redis server and browse and see what's inside. So let's try that real quick. I've already downloaded it previously, so I'm just going to click open with Redis Insight. It might take a little bit of time to load. And here it is. Okay, perfect. So as you can see here, inside our WayChat app Redis database, available at this link. It's pretty small, so you don't have to read it, but you should see a Waze email string data type entry. And once I click on it, you'll see my value, which is wayonstream@gmail.com. What's cool is you can even edit it directly from Redis Insight. You can change the email, for example, wayonstream.@+redis maybe @gmail.com. And if we go back to our application and get that value, we should be able to retrieve the new email because it's connecting to the Redis server. This is super, super useful because you could have 10 instances, for example, of your app running on various users or various servers, right? By utilizing a single Redis server, you're centralizing the cache. Everybody will have the same cache. If I retrieve Waze email on one server, all my web servers will have that available to them through Redis Cloud. So that is the power of Redis. And you can use it as a primary database as well, as I mentioned previously. So that value looks really good. Now let's take a look at some other examples here. You can set a hash map. So user 123 can have a JSON type data, which is pretty cool. So let's try that real quick. I can do something like user session. My ID is 123. That sounds good. Wei He. Company is MLH. And then I can put email. I'm not going to print it out. I'm just going to run this real quick. Okay, done. And we can actually go to our Redis Insight database and refresh, and you will see a new hash type data type available here, and it has all the fields mapped correctly using JSON. So you can see how powerful it is now. It is super, super easy to integrate that into your application if you're using JavaScript, because JSON is the building blocks of JavaScript applications. Cool. So with that, let's try to do the same in our application and migrate our SQLite into move on to the Redis database. So first, I'm just going to remove the references to SQLite 3. There's a database here right now. I know we'll be, missing out on the existing messages, but feel free to add them back after and we can try them out. So I'm going to delete the SQLite database that was created as well, and I'm going to delete the references to SQLite. And I'm going to remember here to connect. I'm going to remember here to connect to our Redis client, right? So here we are opening the SQLite database, and this is actually where we'll be connecting to our Redis client. All right, and then this is now creating a database. If it doesn't exist, we don't need to create a SQLite database anymore, so we're gonna forget it. And we're gonna keep going down, just removing instances to SQLite 3 and adding in our own instances. Okay, so the first thing here, I'm just gonna comment to that real quick, trying to understand what it is doing. So here, we are inserting into a database, we're inserting a message with the client offset. I think client offset is an ID that is passed in from the front end, and it's basically inserting that message into a table. So what we can do is we can insert it to a Redis list. I'm thinking, instead of using a SQL table to maintain the messages, we can just use a Redis list, making it super easy since it's a list of strings, right? And since lists can also have strings, we can store our IDs of the messages of the content, which is client offset. This is a badly named variable, but think of it as a message ID. So we can actually do something like this. Let me go ahead and write this out. When a new chat message comes in from the front end, we are going to set the message and we're going to cache it by client offset ID, which is the message ID. And I can actually just change the variable name here to kind of type annotations. Okay, I can't change. Yeah, I'll just change it to message ID for simplicity purposes. But do keep in mind, like they are calling it client offset in the chat example of the project. So I'm going to just name it message ID. And the first thing I'm going to do is do the same thing we did here, which is set a value. And instead of setting Wade's email, I'm going to set message ID. And the value of the message ID is going to be MSG. I'm going to leave a comment here. Set a string data type, key being the message ID, value is the message. So this way we have an ID always mapped to a message. And the next thing is we want to append it to a list, right? And instead of appending the message directly, we're just going to append the message IDs to it. And we can do that by looking through the documentation, see how we can do it, because we didn't do it in our example. So let's take a look at the example here, Redis lists. So here are some examples, right? We have left push or right push. So I'm thinking we're just use the right push, rpush command to keep appending messages to the end of the list when a new one comes in. So we can easily do that with the help of IntelliSense here, rpush. And here we're going to pick a key for this chat messages. There are a few ways you can put a key here. I'm just going to use chat::messages. This is kind of a way for Redis to organize keys from different categories. So we're going to do chat::messages. And for this message ID, we can actually do something like chat, message, and the message ID, just to keep everything very neatly organized. Yeah, chat, message ID, and then we're gonna push that message ID to the list. Okay. With that, we're going to emit a message. So when a new message comes in the server and we add it to Redis, we're going to tell all the clients, tell everybody that a new chat message has come in, right? So this is what this is about. io.emit chat message. This is actually going to the browser and we're passing in the message and then the ID. Okay. So that, let me leave a comment here as well. Append new message ID to the end of messages list. And then notify all clients via WebSockets that a new message has arrived. All right, perfect. So the last step then is we need to, I think this is for the initial load. So when the message comes, or when the people or users refresh their page, we are retrieving all previous messages so people can stay up to date, right? But before we make any changes there, let's just comment it out and see if it works. And I am going to just run this script and see if it works. Hope for the best. Node index.js. Okay, server running, perfect. And let's open it in a new browser. Here it is, let me refresh. and there are no messages as expected. I'm going to open the developer tools just for good measure so we can capture some of those WebSockets events. Refresh here, you can see the WebSockets event. And let me send a message test. Welcome, thank you so much for coming to my stream. We're just working on our Redis application. So I'm gonna send a test message, and as you can see, it is working perfectly. Once I sent the message, I received the message as well. And I can actually open this in a new tab. So now I have a separate tab, but there are no messages because we haven't completed this piece of code, and that retrieves all previous messages for anybody loading the page. But if I send another message here, message 2, let me just make it super big, heading, change a different font, impact maybe, and center it, send. You'll see the message show up here, and it also shows up on our new window, right? So this means our WebSockets is working, our Redis cloud is also working. And we can verify that by going to the Redis Insight and refresh. And as you can see here, we have a list of chat messages. I know this is a little bit small. There's a way to increase it, I see. So we do have a chat messages list that has message IDs, as you can see here. And then we have chat message ID that are string types. They actually return the exact text message that has been sent. So you can see my message 2 has a font family, and it has a text align CSS attribute. So it's all working perfectly. All we have to do now is, oh, I appreciate that. Thanks for that message. Yeah, next we just need to implement this last bit, which is to retrieve all saved messages from chat messages list. Okay, and how do we do that? Let's look at the documentation to see like if there's a method here that under lists here that we can use to just grab all the messages. So let's do view complete list of commands. I don't see anything here that will just return all the messages without removing them, because here trim kind of removes it, pop, move, they all manipulate the list. They don't just return the items in the list. So let's look at the complete list of commands available to us and see if there's anything that we can use to just retrieve a list of all the items. And you see they have some amazing features, right? Index, insert before another element, length. So these are all very useful depending on your use case. Pop, push, pushx, range. Okay, so I think the command we might want to use is lrange, because it returns a range of elements from a list. So we can just return the whole list. Looks like this is one of the only commands that does not manipulate the list. So let's go to it. Cool. And then we can use the range. We need to supply the key of the list, start and stop. And looking through the documentation, it says, oh, so we need to first have a start, 0 being the first element, 1 being the next element, and we can also do the end of the list. So using -1, we can do 0, -1, and that will actually retrieve all the items from the first item to the last element of the list. So let's just try that real quick. We can do messages, equals to client dot, and just go back here to take a look at the command name, which is lrange. So let's try lrange. And here we need the key, right? So I'm going to copy the key so I don't misspell. And we need to supply the start and end, start and stop. So we start from 0, stops at -1. So this should give us all the messages. Let me just do a quick check here. If messages.length greater than 0, so if there are messages there, we can we can retrieve. So this is actually not messages, because these are actually message IDs. I should be clear, because we are pushing message IDs to the messages. So with all these message IDs, we can then just do a for loop. So we can do something like message ID of message IDs, and just retrieve that message. And if we remember from our test, we can get the message by using the await client.get. So let's copy that and create a new variable called message equals to client.get. And we need to kind of review the format of our key here, client.set. This is where we set the messages. So we'll need to use the same key to grab the messages back. And let me just paste that here. So with that, we should be able to receive messages. And we can actually console log all the messages here. Console log message, message ID message maybe. And restart our server. So, okay, as you can see here, we have message IDs and messages perfectly set up here. So we have message 1, it has some HTML in it. We have another message which has some more content in it, so that's perfect. Let me just stop it for now. Now we have the messages, we actually need to push them out to everybody who's on the website, right? Who just came to the website. And the way we can push it out is to use the socket.emit method. So we only push out these messages to whoever just connected to our WebSockets. So we don't like repeatedly push these messages to everybody, right? And with that, we can do socket.emit. And we can do the same thing we are doing here. We can push out the message and message ID in the same way. Yep. And with that, let's try it out. So if I refresh, I should see all the messages. Perfect. Okay, so I just refreshed and I still see all the messages from before, and I can do new message. I just want to make sure it is working expectedly. New message. I'll underline it and make it a different font. Terminal font. I really like this font, by the way. Terminal. New message, send. And if we go to another tab, it shows the new message as well. So everything is working perfectly. Yeah, just like that, we have replaced SQLite with Redis Cloud. Isn't this easy and amazing? Just remember like what you had to do with SQLite. There are a ton of work really to make this happen. you first have to create a database locally on the server, and it's not shared across multiple web servers. So if you have multiples, it's not going to work. And next, you have to execute some very complex create table commands, as well as like all the different SQL queries that you have to write to insert data and then to retrieve data. It's a lot. It's like very, very complicated, right? But with the power of Redis, you don't have to worry about schema or anything like that. All we did were we are setting some keys, pushing some things to the list, reading from the keys and reading from the list. That's all we had to do. We basically replaced all the things that we had to do with SQLite with just a few lines of code. So that's why I like Redis so much. It makes things so simple for anybody involved. And of course, Redis Cloud has a lot more features than what I'm showing today. For example, with Redis Cloud, you can even set a timeout to some of the messages. So imagine if you're building a hotel booking software for as an example, you might want to cache the price for 30 minutes or so that like everybody hitting your web page can see the price without you running like expensive queries to different hotel chains, right? So maybe you'll just set a hotel price key that has an expiration of an hour. Now you can refresh that every hour and you always have the latest, but anybody visiting within the hour will all hit the cache and their website experience will be super, super fast. So that is a very common use case for Redis. But with the introduction of the newer capabilities, as we mentioned, it is really, really powerful. You can store JSON objects, you can store geo coordinates, you can store all kinds of things. So I highly recommend you check it out. And just remember, like, you only have to integrate this into your application in one way, like just very, very easily to be eligible for the prize category, right? So definitely check out Redis Cloud. Sign up with just a couple clicks, which is the same thing I did. I did log in with Google at the end. That was much easier than signing up with email. So check it out if you haven't already. Use the coupon code. And lastly, let me just commit my changes so you have a copy of it. Index. And I'm also going to commit my package.json changes. And since we're no longer using SQLite, I can safely remove them. Oh, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your message. If anybody has any other questions, please pop them in chat. But for now, I am going to the last step of our session plan, which is submit our hack to month-long hackathon. I'm going to just submit my hack here. You can work on your project a little bit and submit afterwards. But I just want to show you how to sign up and submit on the DevPost platform and make sure you check the Redis prize category to be eligible for the prize. So for now, I have removed SQLite references to in the dependencies, and I can just run a npm install to get rid of them in our project. And I'm here going to say replace SQLite with Redis Cloud. Super, super easy. And I'm going to push it out to GitHub. Now, does anybody have the link to the month-long hackathon? Because I don't have it offhand. I have to look for it real quick. But if you do have the DevPost link to the month-long hackathon, please message in the chat. I would love to not have to look everywhere for it. Okay, I think I just found it. Perfect. MLH December. This is our DevPost page. And if you haven't already, definitely register and sign in for the event over there. That way you can get your points. you can get your submission in for your prize categories. Oh, so we already have 303 participants. That's amazing. Perfect. We do have a few more days, like about a week left for this, so definitely check it out. Make sure you read all the requirements prior. And oh, as you can see here, we have the most creative use of Redis Cloud. Think of all the rich features of Redis. Like, think of a way you can integrate that into your application. I'm sure you'll do a great job. This is a fantastic software, fantastic caching and database service. So for now, I'm just going to start a new project. And it looks like I have to click through some cars. And I'm just going to do it myself. Submit it for myself. I'm going to say chat with Redis, TinyMCE, and Redis Cloud. And a tagline for the project: real-time chat with anyone in the world. Perfect. And I would just go to next. And about the project, this is where you should put all your inspirations, your tech background on your project, how you built it, what are the challenges, what are the technologies, and what you learned. So for now, I'm just going to say, I love to have the ability to chat with anybody in the world. How we built it, I'm just going to say, or what it does, I'm going to say, we built a chat application that uses TinyMCE rich text editor and Redis Cloud for storage. It also uses Socket.io for real-time communications between browsers and server via WebSockets. How we built it? Oh, this is kind of I kind of answered that there as well. So I won't complete all of them, but please make sure you put in some effort on this, because judges would love to see how you built the project, what are the backgrounds of your projects, and learn a little bit more about your team and your process. So I built with Socket.io, Redis for sure, and TinyMCE. Tryout link, this is where you should put your GitHub repo URL, and let me see if I can find it. I can't find it. TinyMCE. Let me see if I can find it again. Chat with TinyMCE. Yeah, that's the name of the project. So next, we are going to do the checkout link right here. Try it out link right here, and then include some screenshots of what it does. Let me see if I can grab a screenshot real quick. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for your kind words. Let me just take a screenshot real quick. I really appreciate that. Let me take a screenshot of this and include that as part of my submission. Okay, and I'm going to attach it to the dev post. Have it on my other screen here. Just attach the screenshot. Okay, perfect. And just remember, you do need a video demo link as well. You can review the requirements on the front page of the month-long hackathon. Just want to make sure you keep that in mind and save some time for it. Now, this is the part I actually want to show you, like the most important part for me. That is, please make sure you select Redis Cloud here, because this is how judges know like which prize categories to consider your hack for. And here you're using Redis Cloud, so be sure to select most creative use of Redis Cloud. And I'm also using TinyMCE, and I can also check like if my hack uses any other sponsored technology. I will be sure to check all of them so that your hack can be considered for the most amount of prizes available. And with that, you just need to answer a couple more questions before you hit submit. Not a couple, there's a ton of questions, but you can go through them really quickly in probably a few minutes. And at the end, just make sure you add all your team members. That is very important. If you want all your team members to receive prizes and win, you definitely need to make sure they are all signed up on DevPost, checked into the event, sign up on DevPost, and invite their email here. This way they can show up on your project. You can also mention on your project page like who did what, and comment on the project and things like that. So everybody has recognition. I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions on DevPost? I would be more than happy to help you out. Anyways, that is our session. We kind of covered these things. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know down in chat. And just a few key takeaways from this session. In just a short hour, we learned how to sign up for Redis Cloud. We learned about some basic core data types Redis Cloud supports, and we learned some of the advanced features of Redis Cloud. And we took an existing application that is using Sockets.io already, and it's using SQLite as a database. We transformed it to use Redis Cloud. And Redis Cloud makes it so easy for you to set and retrieve and manipulate data without all the complexities that you typically will have to do, like all the overhead you have to do with SQL. And yeah, we were able to complete everything in just under an hour, which is amazing. And lastly, we also learned about how to submit your hack on DevPost and make sure you select the right prize category to be considered for them. So with that, I hope that is useful. I have attached some links here. Feel free to pause it or rewind to it later on. These are some resources for Redis. We have the sign up link. Make sure to check the coupon code on the FAQ or the event page. The Redis University with MLH here that I have shown here. That is this page. And it has some Redis University resources and YouTube Quick Start, Discord, etc. So definitely check those out after the session. And I would just like to thank you so much for being here and coming to my event. Hope you learned something about Redis. If you are looking to learn more about containers and deploying with containers on Google Cloud, we have another session tomorrow morning from our one and only Cigar, another coach of Major League Hacking. That is happening tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. But be sure to check out the Discord events or the announcements for the event checking link and time, your local time. With that, I really appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day. Happy holidays, everybody. See ya.